Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate. We're back with another episode of Shadows Over Mordheim. This is our series of weekly battle reports from Mordheim, and this is battle report number 3. It is a hidden treasure scenario that is fought between my two friends, Sister Serial, as well as Scream of the Emo. Sister Serial will be playing the Iron Golems, a Pit Fighters warband, while Scream of the Emo will be playing House von Koss, an Undead warband. So this is the 33rd battle report of our campaign so far, and so far we're loving this game, having a blast playing it. So with that being said, real quick, we're going to play some background music real fast. If you guys want to see exactly what these warbands are bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is Hidden Treasure. Pretty much what ends up happening is that both sides deploy on opposite sides of the battlefield with age deployment areas. What ends up happening is that every single building within the battlefield, what you have to do is that they send fighters in to explore it. You roll 2d6, and if a score of 12 up ends up happening, the treasure is found inside the building, and the goal is to take that treasure and to return back to your deployment zone. Obviously, if the buildings are going through it one by one and none of the buildings have the treasure, the very last building will be the one holding the treasure for that one as well. It's kind of like a smash and grab where you're just trying to grab the treasure and run as quickly as you possibly can, with a lot of different items being inside that treasure chest when you find it. Standard victory conditions as always: 1 point of experience for winning leaders, 1 point of experience for fighters who survive, as well as 1 point of experience for every out of action result a hero makes against the enemy. Also, any hero who finds the treasure chest also earns 2 points of experience as well. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. My friends are playing on a 4x4 table, and of course my friend Sister Serial with her Iron Golems are deployed on this near side of the table, while Scream the Emo as well as his House von Koss are deployed on the far side of the table. And as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of buildings located in this one as well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buildings that the players will be searching through, and what ends up happening is that every single time they enter a building, they roll 2d6 on a score of 12 up. The treasure chest is found. If not, they got to keep on searching for it. As for the battle plan, I'm really not sure what the battle plan is for my friends on this one, because I'm just taking the pictures for this. I'm actually not really playing the game. My two friends are. But from the way that the deployment looks like they laid out, it looks like they're going kind of like this line formation. They're just kind of search through all the buildings as they move towards each other and make contact. And then, of course, once they find the treasure, they book it and try and make it back to their deployment zone. So with that being said, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so starting off with the Iron Golems, over here on the left-hand side, we have Drej Borsha, which is an ogre pit fighter. He's got twin hammers as well as light armor. He's got the pit fighter skill, fear ability, large, as well as slow-witted. And right next to him on the right-hand side, that is Voss Herun is his name. Basically, he's a pit fighter veteran. He's got a shield, hammer, light armor, as well as the pit fighter skill. And that makes up Sister Serial's left-hand deployment. In the center of her deployment line, she has 2 more fighters. On the left-hand side, that is Banner the Eld, who is a dwarf troll slayer. He's got twin dwarf axes. He's got the pit fighter skill, hard to kill skill, as well as hatred, hard-headed skill. He's also got the hate orcs and goblins, as well as grudge bearer special rules. And right next on the right-hand side, that is Sever Grill. He is a pit king. He is the leader of this warband. He's armed with a great weapon as well as light armor. He's got the leader skill as well as the pit fighter skill as well. And finally, all by her lonesome over here on the right-hand side, that is Garn Dramnir. She is a pit fighter veteran. She's armed with a ward chain mace as well as the pit fighter skill. And that pretty much makes up Lady Domina's deployment for this one. Alright, so on to Scream of the Emo's deployment. On the left-hand side there, he's got a little 3-man fire team. Leading that group is Sinister Jeffrey. He's a dreg. He's got a knife, a short bow, as well as an axe. In front of him is Narcisse Narvanis. He is also a dreg as well. He's got a knife, short bow, as well as a halberd. And right next to him on the right-hand side, that is the Hound of Tyndalos, which is a dire wolf. And that makes up the deployment here on the left-hand side. In the center of Scream of the Emo's deployment in the back, that is Fade von Koss. He is a vampire. He's equipped with knife, sword, short bow, as well as a shield. He's got the leader skill. He also causes fear. He's got immunity to psychology and poison. And he's got the feel no pain ability as well. And right next to him on the right hand side, that is Creepy Timothy. He is a dreg who's equipped with a knife, a short bow, as well as a halberd. And then in front of them are 3 Crypt Ghouls. Those guys are the Balefire Carnival. And that pretty much makes up Scream of the Emo's deployment here in the center. And finally, on the far right-hand side is Gauntfield of Carrion Crows, who is a Necromancer. He's equipped with knife, short bow, as well as a wizard ability. He's got the reanimation spell, and then leading in front of that is a 4-man unit of zombies called the Dead of San Reme, and they have, of course, fear, may not run. They got immune to psychology and poison abilities, and feel no pain and no brain abilities as well. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for Scream of the Emo. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Scream of the Emo and Sister Sarah roll for initiative to see who will be going first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Pit Fighters in this one. So Sister Sarah will be going first, and the first thing that she does, of course, is just runs forward with all of her forces as quickly as she possibly can. First of all, she sends Dread Borsha over to the center, as well as one of her Pit Fighters over the left-hand side to check the buildings left-hand side, as well as the mill there in the center. At the same time, she also sends up her Pit King, as well as her Dwarf Troll Slayer. Her Dwarf Troll Slayer, Banner of the Eld, searches the Black Roof building in the center, while her leader, Sever Grill, goes directly to the shack right there on the right-hand side. Unfortunately for Sister Sarah, all 4 buildings end up being empty, so there's no treasure there. At the same time, while that's occurring, she also sends up her very last Pit Fighter veteran, Garn Drammer. She actually moves her up a normal 8 inches forward, right behind that little palisade wall there on the right-hand side. And that pretty much makes up her movement phase, and pretty much the entire phase for her turn, because she has no missile attacks in this warband. Alright, so here's a close-up of Voss Haudun as well as Drej Borsha searching their respective buildings and not finding any treasure inside. And here's a close-up of Banner of the Eld on the left-hand side, as well as Sever Grill in the center, searching their buildings and finding no treasure inside. At the same time, on the right-hand side, you can see Garn Dramner making her way as quick as she can to catch up the rest of her warband. And that pretty much makes up the pretty uneventful turn number 1 for the Pit Fighters. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Undead on this one. As you can see in this photo, my buddy Scream of the Emo tries to move up his forces as quickly as he possibly can. The first thing he does, he sends the Hound of Tyndalos and has him running over to the left-hand side to the double-decker house on the left-hand side to search it. Unfortunately for Scream of the Emo, no treasure is found there at all. At the same time, he also does a double movement up with Sinister Jeffrey as well as Narcisse the Ravenous. They move at their normal double mid-distance in order to close a distance between themselves as well as the Pit Fighters. Exactly the same thing happens with Fade as well as the 3 ghouls from the Balefire Carnival. They're actually posted right behind that tower as well. And then over there on the right hand side, you have Gauntfield of Carrion Crows as well as his 4 zombies from the Walking Dead of San Reme. Unfortunately for him, though, those zombies can't run, so they can only move at their normal movement allowance of 4 inches. So they're moving painstakingly slow as they make their way to those ruins over the far right hand side of the battlefield. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase as well as the phase for the entire turn for the Undead. So here's a close-up of the Hound of Tyndalos searching that building and finding no treasure inside, as well as Sinister Jeffrey, as well as Narcisse the Ravenous, moving as quick as they possibly can across the battlefield. And finally, here's a close-up of the rest of Scream of the Emo's forces. You can see Fade von Koss, as well as the 3 Crypt Ghouls, as well as Creepy Timothy moving as quick as they possibly can right next to that tower, right there in the center of the battlefield. On the right hand side, you can see Gauntfield of Carrion Crows as well as the Walking Dead of San Reme as they slowly drudge along the battlefield and try to search the ruins to the right hand side. So with the turn over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Pit Fighters. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Pit Fighters, and this photo is taken after the recovery as well as the movement phase. Since nobody's in recovery, we skip the recovery phase. As you can see in this photo, Sister Sarah starts moving her forces as quickly as she can over to the right-hand side. The only buildings that are left on the battlefield that haven't been searched yet are the 2 ruins over there in the far upper right-hand corner of the battlefield. So she starts closing distance as quick as she possibly can in order to make sure that happens. She takes points with her leader, Sever Grill. He actually ends up taking points. The Pit King is already up there in the front, heading towards the ruin right in front of him. At the same time, Drej Borsha also moves up an incredible 12 inches because he's got a 6-inch standard movement allowance. Following up right behind the left-hand side is Sever Grill with Garn Drammer also moving up as quickly as she can to that center ruin as well. Unfortunately, Banner the Eld, who is a dwarf, he's only got a movement allowance of 3, so he can only move up 6 inches. So he hops over the stone wall and starts making his way to the shack. At the same time, Voss Haudun, who's another veteran over the left-hand side, he moves from his building to where the mill is, making his way over to the main lines on the right-hand side as well. And since they have no shooting attacks, we skip shooting, and since no one's in combat, we skip the combat phase, and that pretty much makes it the phase for turn number 2 for the Iron Golems. And here's a close-up of all 5 members of the Iron Golems moving as quick as they possibly can, shifting to the right so that way they can search those ruins and look for any buried treasure that might be located there. So with that over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Undead, and as you can see in this photo, my buddy Screaming the Emo just starts mirroring the same exact movement taking place with Sister Serial. First thing he does, he actually moves up Gauntfield of Carrion Crows. He actually makes him move him up, run over to the ruin of the right-hand side. So when he went to go check that ruin on the right-hand side, he realized there's no treasure inside of it, so because of that, the only piece of building left over on this battlefield is the ruins right there, smack dab in the middle of the right-hand corner, where the pit fighter's heading towards. So there's a guaranteed treasure chest in there. At the same time, Scream the Emo tries to move the Walking Dead as San Reme as quick as he can, moving up their normal 4-inch movement allowance as they start making their way towards that wall that's in front of the ruins. At the same time, the Balefire Carnival, Creepy Timothy, as well as Fade von Koss shift over from the right-hand side from the tower, closing the distance in order to engage the pit fighters before they get to those ruins. The same thing happens to the Hound of Tindalos, also shifting to the right-hand side as well. And at the same time, Sinister Jeffrey and Narcisse the Ravenous also try to make their way to the tower, so that way they can try to climb and get some good overwatching positions to open fire with their bows. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of Sinister Jeffrey, as well as Narcisse the Ravenous, as well as the Hound of Tindalos, as they quickly move through to the left-hand side to the base of the tower. You can also see Fade von Koss, Creepy Timothy, as well as the 3 members of the Balefire Carnival move as quick as they can over the right-hand side as well. And finally, here's a close of the Walking Dead of San Reme as they slowly shamble across the battlefield in order to intercept the pit fighters. And you can see Gauntfield of Carrion Crows on the right-hand side, searching the ruins and finding no treasure in that building at all. And since everybody advanced forward by running, there is no shooting this turn, and pretty much ends the turn for the Undead. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the pit fighters, and as you can see in this photo, Sister Serial decides to lead the attack. First thing she does, she charges forward with Dredge Borsha, heading directly into the Crypt Ghouls of the Balefire Carnival to pin those guys down in close combat as well. At the same time, she also maneuvers her pit fighter veteran as well as her Troll Slayer. Those 2 characters are Voss Hadun as well as Banner the Eld. They also move up quickly as they can right behind Dredge in order to add some support to help them out at the same time. While that's occurring, her Pit King Severgriel as well as her other pit fighter veteran Garn Drammer, both those characters enter into the ruins, they search it, and they find the treasure chest, and they both will be carrying it out, so that way neither of them suffers movement penalties in order to get those treasure chests back to their territory as quickly as possible. So here's a close-up of Severgriel as well as Garn Dramnir, both of them finding the treasure chest, which is represented by that barrel. They both will be carrying it out, so that way they have suffered no movement penalties as they try to escape with their newly found loot. And there's a close-up of Dredge Borsha engaged in close combat with the Crypt Ghouls of the Balefire Carnival, which will be interesting to see exactly how that kind of stacks up since Dredge Borsha is a bigger, stronger fighter. So it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly how that works out. And lastly, here's a close-up of Voss Hadun as well as Banner the Eld, who are moving as quick as they possibly can in order to help support Dredge Borsha, so that way he can take on the Undead and allow their leader and as well as Garn Drimmer in order to escape with the treasure chest as well. So with the move phase over with, we skip the shooting phase because the pit fighters have no shooting attacks, and we go directly to the combat phase. As you probably guessed, Dredge Borsha had no problem whatsoever putting the smackdown on one of the ghouls, actually puts him out of action. Luckily for my friend Screaming the Emo though, that Crypt Ghoul does make a full recovery, so he will be able to participate in the next battle report. And of course the other Crypt Ghoul, he does try to counterattack, but unfortunately for him though, he just kind of fails his attack, wasn't able to get through the toughness 4 of Dredge Borsha. So with that being said, that pretty much ends the combat phase, and we go directly to the bottom of the turn for the vampire, for the Undead. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Undead on this photo. As you can see here, a lot of dramatic movement takes place over on the left-hand side of the battlefield. First of all, the Hound of Tindalos charges directly into Voss Hadun, catching that guy into close combat as well. At the same time, Fade von Koss, as well as the other remaining Crypt Ghoul from the Balefire Carnival, they charge directly into Dredge Borsha, getting him kind of like in a pincer attack in order to attack him as well. While that's occurring, both Creepy Timothy as well as, Sinister Jeffrey as well as Narcisse the Ravenous, they actually spend double movements running forward in order to get to the top of that tower, so that way they can lay down some overwatching fire with their bows. And Creepy Timothy does exactly the same thing, moving over the right-hand side as normal movement allowance, so that way you can start taking pot shots directly into Severgriel as well as his veteran pit fighter right there, so that way they can stop them from taking off the treasure chest. The Walking Dead Samurai may also shamble forward 4 inches directly to the wall outside the ruins, and Gonfil the Carrion Crows also moves up his normal allowance, so that way he can take a pot shot with his bows at exactly the same time. So here's a close-up of Sinister Jeffrey as well as Narcisse the Ravenous, who made their way to the top of the tower, so that way they have a good field of fire to open up with their bows. At the same time, here's a close-up of the Hound of Tindalos charged directly into Vas Hadun, engaging him in close combat. Same thing with Fade von Koss, as well as the last member of the Balefire Carnival, getting Drej Borsha into a pincer attack as well. And you can see creepy Timothy up there in the top right there, moving his normal wheelhouse, that way he can engage with his bow directly into Sever Grill, as well as Garn Drammer. And finally, here's a close-up of the 4 Walking Dead of San Reme, as well as Gonfil the Carrion Crows. Gonfil the Carrion Crow does have a shot right through the doorway directly into Sever Grill, and that pretty much makes it the movement phase. Unfortunately for my friend Scream of the Emo, though, when Creepy Timothy as well as Gonfil the Carrion Crows, when they try to open fire with their bows, unfortunately for them, either they missed or they did hit but didn't manage to cause any wounds. So because of that, shooting was pretty much ineffective. And close combat was also kind of a flub too. Fade von Koss as well as the Crypt Ghouls just couldn't do anything to Drej, and Drej couldn't do anything back as well. And that pretty much makes it the turn for this one. So with that takes directly to the top at turn number 4 for the Pit Fighters, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. As you can see, those who are already engaged in close combat, they're pretty much stuck there. Banner the Eld charges directly into the Balefire Carnival in order to lend some support to Drej Borsha as he's fighting against the Crypt Ghouls as well as the Vampire as well. At the same time, Sister Serial also takes Sever Grill as well as Garn Dramnir, and they move as quickly as they possibly can, running a full 8 inches out of the ruins directly past that pillar of smoke, using it as soft cover as they try to escape with the treasure chest. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Pit Fighters still currently engaged with their undead counterparts. Drej Borsha and Banner the Elder still engaged in close combat with the Balefire Carnival as well as Fade von Koss. And of course you can see Vas Hadun, he is still in close combat with the Hound of Tindalos as well. And finally, here's a close-up of Sever Grill as well as Garn Dramnir as they try to move as quick as they possibly can, carrying their treasure chest back to their deployment area. And unfortunately, the combat phase was pretty much a wash. Sister Sarah was just unable to make any connections with her attacks and cause any wounds, and exactly the same thing happened with the Undead. So pretty uneventful turns, just a bunch of moving at this point for both warbands. So with the uneventful fighting over with, you go directly to the bottom of turn number 4 for the Undead, and in this photo, as you can see, not much is really happening for the most part. Pretty much most of Scream of the Emo's forces are engaged in close combat on the left-hand side. The Walking Dead of Samurai do climb over the wall in order to close a distance directly towards Sever Grill as well as Garn Dramnir, and same thing happens with Gonfil Carrion Crows. He moves up his normal allowance, so that way he can open fire with his bow and arrow directly into the Pit Fighters escaping. And here's a close-up of the movement phase as well as the recovery phase. You can see everyone is still engaged in close combat for the most part. And once again, not much combat really happening. Both guys are just kind of stuck in a stalemate, nobody landing any connecting blows, just a bunch of 1s and 2s being rolled for the most part, which is pretty demoralizing, all things considered, because you know, there's a lot of undead attacking the Pit Fighters. The Pit Fighters are supposed to be really good at close combat, but they're not really connecting. Pretty uneventful turn for this point. Alright, which takes us directly to the top of turn number 5 for the Pit Fighters. As you can see in this photo, everyone is still engaged in close combat. On the left-hand side, Drej Borsha as well as Banner the Elder are still engaged with their targets. Same thing with Vas Hadun. The only major action that really took place is both Sever Grill as well as Garn Dramnir. They actually make their full movement 8 inches directly back into the front of their deployment zone. And so because of that, they kind of take the treasure chest back to the deployment zone and, of course, bring the end to the scenario for the most part. And here's a close-up of both Pit Fighters dragging their treasure chest directly into their deployment zone and bringing about an end to the battle for the Battle of the Treasure Chest. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That takes us directly to the end of the game, with the Pit Fighters managed to secure victory on this one by grabbing the treasure and managing to escape for the most part. Pretty uneventful combat for the most part between both sides, which is pretty kind of sad to see. Not much combat going on for the most part, but you know, them's the break at this point. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the after action report and talk about the post game, because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about House von Koss. First of all, the only injury they really had was the one Crypt Gold. He made a full recovery, so nothing much is really happening from there as well. As for advances, nobody really advanced for this turn, so there's no advances to speak of. However, for the exploration portion, they did manage to find 4 shards of weird stone as well as a straggler who they killed in order to get an additional zombie for the Walking Dead as San Reme. With the gold pieces they got from the 4 weird stone shards, they purchased heavy armor for Vade von Koss, so because of the vampires now has a 4-up armor save, which is pretty good. And they also bought shields for Gauntfield of Carrion Crows as well as for Narcisse the Ravenous. Their new record now is at 0 win as well as 1 loss, and their new Royban rating now is at 103 points. Alright, so let's talk about the Iron Golems real quick. So for injuries, none of the members of the Warband actually got injured in this battle report, so there are no injuries to speak of. And for advancement, Sever Griel, because he managed to discover the treasure chest, he actually learned the resilience skill for him. So it's a really powerful strength skill, which means that anytime an enemy attacks him, they suffer a -1 to strength penalty to represent that. So Sever Griel is now extremely difficult to injure, which is pretty cool as well. For the exploration, they managed to find 4 shards of weird stone out in the exploration. They also managed to find a ruined hovel, giving them 3 gold pieces. At the same time, inside the treasure chest, they also managed to earn two additional weird stones from the treasure chest as well. When it came to training, when it's all said and done, combined with the gold pieces they found in the treasure chest, as well as from the ruined hovel and from their weird stone, netted them a grand total of 130 gold pieces. With those 130 gold pieces, they hired 3 pursuers named Krola Ilvek, Dran Ilvek, as well as Varsk Ilvek. All 3 pursuers were also equipped with maces, shields, and they're also packing javelins as well. And of course, all 3 have the pit fighter skill as well. They had 1 piece of gold piece remaining, so because they took that gold crown and they put it back into their treasury as well. The new record now is at 1 win and 0 losses, and the new warband rating is at 107 points. So that's good for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest news about the hobby aspect on this channel. That's good for this one. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, you guys, and stay classy.